day, whole day with my little cousin Marcus. Someone threw a whole brick in the Neiman Marcus. Help me put the whole mannequin in the charge. You should have been downtown. The people are rising. We thought it was a lockdown. They opened the fire. The bullets was flying. Who said it was a lockdown? Goddamn lie. Ooh-wee. Awesome. Welcome. We can fade the music and let's get it started here.
Yeah.
Welcome everybody to our first. Oh, sorry, I'm getting my chair set up here. This is the COVID life where nothing looks as smooth as you want it to. So this is I thought I had it all set up. Here we go. All right. Again, welcome. This is a partnership between West Coast Songwriters and Sunset Youth Services, and we are super grateful. Part of that goal is, we've been doing music for so long, so many. I mean, when I listen to music on the radio, I'm like, not as good as like many of the people who are right in our mix, and so I know a lot of times it can feel confusing. The amount of times I hear people say things like, oh man, if I don't make it, in the next 2 years, I'm just going to kind of give up and I'm just going to do this, and there's always this kind of topic and this pressure of like making it, and you don't often see how many paths there are to making it and what is making it look like for you. And there are, people make it as engineers, people make it as producers, people make it just as songwriters, people, so there's so many paths that we're wanting to bring in people from different sides of the industry to kind of tell a little bit of their story, and also answer some questions, right? Because I know y'all have some questions like for instance, how the hell do you make money as a musician? So welcome to generations of musicians who had that same question. And, some of us have, my path has been, I've been a lifelong musician, and youth work, like slowly continuing to be a musician, but then marrying my passion for working with youth has meant that I've, I'm not Billboard charting, right? But like every day I do music, so that to me has been my way of making it as a musician, right? But so anyway, we're going to be talking about a bunch of stuff. Welcome to our guest and presenter, Derek Demar Martin, who I'll let him give a little bit of a background for who he is and where he landed in this music industry. And he's also an educator and interested in kind of putting people on and answering questions and like really getting people to think about their value as an artist and where that value comes from. So the structure of today is going to be Demar is going to be talking a little bit from his experience, and then we'll do that for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then open it up really for another 15 to 20 minutes of just question and answer. Because I know a lot of people are like, well, how do I copyright my stuff? How do I, how do I get paid? So definitely be jotting down your questions. You know how we roll. We talk a lot in the chat. So feel free to blow up the chat if you're like, what the hell do you mean by that word or that thing? You know what I mean? Just like, we keep it real. So like, definitely feel free to have your questions represented, and I'll be taking notes of the questions that come up in the chat, and then we'll go from there. But last thing before I hand it over to Demar is just, Zoom etiquette. If you can, mute yourself while you're not talking. And and we're trying to keep the vibes positive. So with no further ado, Demar, what you got for us?
How you doing? I'm good. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, well, first of all, how's everybody doing? Everybody have a good day? We cool?
Yep.
Well, first of all, let me just say thanks to Joel for all the great work that he's been doing and continuing to do. And, thank you guys just for being here and, being cool and being interested. A little bit about myself. I am a musician, producer, songwriter, educator, blah, blah. My main instrument is drums. Been working, I'm 49 now, and I started working professionally at 19, had my first major placement, 1995, produced the group Wildlife Society, TBT Records, New York, mixed by Prince Charles, who had also mixed like Biggie's Ready to Die record. Oddly enough, TBT Records, the group I produced, was signed to TBT at the same time as Cash Money Click, which was Ja Rule's first group. Irv Gotti was also hanging. The same year Jay-Z got his deal. Well, Reasonable Doubt came out and they started Rockefeller. And as the same year, I also joined the Little Richard Band. And I played drums with Little Richard for like 17 years, toured the world. I've done the Tonight Show, American Music Awards, Grammys, blah, blah, blah. And I've had a very interesting experience as a musician because I am a musician, but I'm a producer, I'm a songwriter. So I've only worked one so-called straight job my entire life. I worked at a record store for about a month. And after that, I ran into a guy that was a mentor of mine, Vastai Jackson. And he's like, hey, man, how do I make a living at this music thing? And he was like, well, what do you do at the record store? He's like, you do what they tell you to do, right? You get up, you go, you punch the clock. He's like, well, you just have to be willing to work like that for yourself every single day. He's like, when you wake up, you have a purpose, you have your vision, and you just work for yourself, you educate yourself. And so I quit that job, went on tour with this blues singer, Dorothy Moore, and pretty much from there on, I've been able to make a career of this. Now, that's enough about my background. What Joe mentioned about, we talk about making it. And I will tell you guys, first of all, as the hardest thing about the music, because you got two entities, right? You got music and business. And that's really an oxymoron because the two really creatively don't have anything to do with each other. That's why a lot of times people say, well, man, how does this person have this record? And you're like, having a hit record and writing a good song, that's two different things. Hit records are made with resources and money and all that stuff. But the thing I would say where you have to start is making it. We all have to define our definition of making it. You have to decide what you want realistically. Now, and you can't fall for like, oh, I want to be Drake. I want to be Beyonce. I want to sell millions of records. I remember years ago, I talked to an attorney. I was like, yeah, man, we want to sell 1 million records. And he was like, well, you do realize that before you can sell 1 million records, you have to be able to buy 1 million records. I was like, what does that mean? He's like, well, somebody has to press 1 million records up. There's a cost involved in that happening. So even back then when they did CDs, you could press CDs. You could probably press 1 million CDs for probably a quarter a disc. But you still had to have that capital in hand to make that happen. So it was like, oh, wait. Okay, so I get it. So the thing that you really want to start with is being able to educate yourself and learn as much as you possibly can about every aspect of this business. Just making the music as creatives, we're going to create music for free, whether we get paid for it or not. We just kind of, maybe some blessed, maybe some see it as a curse, but we were given this gift that, the universe gives us these ideas, so we're going to create. But what we have to do is, when you think about making it, the first thing you have to do is define what making it means to you. If you say, I want to be a millionaire, okay, does that mean that, okay, making money is the most important thing to you? Being famous is the most important thing to you? And there are no wrong answers. But the thing you have to do is decide what making it is to you. And then you start writing, what do I have to do starting right now, day to day, to reach that goal? Now, when we talk about the industry, it's harder now to make money from music because I think what you have to get. Last time I checked, Spotify, it used to be you could sell a CD for $20 directly to somebody, but it probably takes about 2,500 streams to make $20. So when you think about the return on the investment, so what I say is you have to look at starting out, take all the pressure off. Don't try to compete, because the thing to remember is that the only person you're competing with is yourself. You're not trying to be Drake. You're not trying to be Beyonce. There's only one Drake and there's only one you. There's only one Dez. So all Dez has to worry about is just being the best Dez that he can be. So what you do is you figure out, okay, this is what my music is. This is my voice. Now we get into the piece of how do I get my music out? How do I get my music seen? Now, you guys know, everybody know about the process of intellectual property ownership. So do we know what intellectual property is?
Let's start us there.
Okay. Intellectual property, when you write a song, that song is your intellectual property. And what you have to do is copyright that intellectual property. Now, the word copyright is COPYRIGHT, as in your right to own this thing or what have you. So, and what most people do, particularly in the digital space, people skip this particular step. And what you have to do, everybody, if you can't write this down, it's just copyright.gov. You can go to copyright.gov and set up your own, so I don't have a site in front of me, but you go and you look for where it says e-copyright, and every person should set up their own electronic copyright account. It's free. And I think it's, what was the last time I checked? I think it's $35 for one song, and you can copyright up to 10 songs as long as it's the same author for like $85. And what that does is that registers your creation, whether it's music, you can copyright a poem. My wife is just finishing her dissertation at Yale, and I'm actually reading through a bunch of copyright law now because she has to copyright her dissertation. So copywriting basically means that your intellectual property creation is registered with the Library of Congress. So if somebody comes up and says, you know, Ivan has a hit record, and somebody says, man, I wrote that song. And he said, nope, I have a copyright. It was proven. Let's do, everybody, you guys familiar with Pharrell, right? Remember a few years ago, Pharrell had the big issue with the Marvin Gaye song. Everybody familiar with that case? Well, what Pharrell did was, what traditionally what Pharrell would do, he kind of borrows from other things. Like he'll say, well, okay, I like this, because he took it from Marvin Gaye's Got to Give It Up. And he liked the way it felt, so he just created a new song. I think Marvin's song was in a minor key, and he just changed it to feel his song was in a major key. But what he did was, instead of just laying back, he actually preempted a suit against Marvin Gaye's family to try to prevent them from coming at him. But when they got in court and they played both of the songs, the court ruled that Pharrell was in violation of the copyright of Marvin Gaye's original song because his intellectual property was ripped off. And I think they had to pay them like $7 million because the original copyright, and then Pharrell didn't get permission from them to change or do anything with their intellectual property. But on that site, and the cool thing about copyright.gov, any question you have about copyright, it's all there. You can type any random question in the search on that page and it will answer it for you. It shows you how to go through. And one of the things I want all of you guys to understand, as creatives, musicians, or whatever, we are business owners. Whatever your artistry is, whether it's a label, if you're an artist, you are a business person, and you have to treat yourself, your brand, like a business in every way. Copywriting first. And you will always, there are sites out there that will tell you, oh, we could copyright it for you. Pay us and we can do this. I don't advocate for that, because I believe that as long as you know how to read, you can empower yourself, and knowledge really is power. So the first step, we always want to copyright everything. It's free, copyright.gov. Everybody should have an e-copyright account. Now, what do we know about publishing? Anybody member of ASCAP, BMI? We know what that is. Des?
Yes, I'm with BMI.
Great. BMI. You want to tell us what it is? What publishing is, Des? Give us an overview.
So I don't know the best way to explain it because it's very complicated, but well, I had the choice to sign up with ASCAP or BMI. I chose BMI after reading a little bit. I have like a whole article like explaining exactly what they do, because it's like Sound Exchange and Song Trust, and it's a bunch of different ones. So sometimes it's kind of like confusing, but yeah, I do have BMI for that one, but there's like 5 different ones though. So it's kind of confused a little bit.
So, right. Now, and the thing about the publishing piece, everybody's talking about money, right? We want to make money. The publishing is how we make money. When your song is, first let's start, you have ASCAP, BMI. Those are the 2 primary organizations in the United States. Then you have CSAC for European royalties or what have you. Now, Sound Exchange, each person, you should be a member of ASCAP, BMI. You can only join one or the other of those. And you can go to the site and kind of read. They both kind of do the same thing, but you can be a member of one of those, and you should be a member of Sound Exchange, because Sound Exchange expressly does, like, it searches like internet, ISRC codes, like stuff that happened where our music has been placed and being used with the advent of the internet. Now, what happens, we talk about publishing. Everybody watches movies. Every time you hear a song in a TV show, a movie, whatever, somebody's getting paid for that music. It has to be licensed. But if your music is not published with a publisher, then that means that you're not getting paid. Because if Ivan has a song that's in the latest hit sitcom, every time that show comes on, Ivan gets, usually it's like a $40,000, $50,000 licensing fee for them to use your song, first of all. But there again, it's licensing because they're doing business with you as a publisher. And what happens when you publish a song, again, everybody write this down, ASCAP.com, just ASCAP, or as Des has told us, or BMI.com. And you can visit each one of those sites, and they both will walk you through what they do, and you can kind of choose. And the first thing, you have to become a writer member first. And after you become a writer member, then you can become a publisher. But I advise everybody to be a writer member and set up a publishing company. I'm a member of ASCAP, and it's like my bills are paid now from royalties, but I think it was like $10 membership thing and $100 a year for my publishing company. But once you're a member, like you start getting royalties, the membership just comes out of your royalties. Now, copyright, we have ownership of our creation, intellectual property, taking us to how we get paid. Publishing, ASCAP, BMI. And this is the boring part of music, because if we don't have our publishing, and what happens is that when you get into the publishing piece, you'll see a thing called IPI. There's an identification number. I just had a friend of mine had a record come out, and I co-wrote like 3 songs on it. And he calls up and said, "Hey man, what's your IPI number?" So I give him my number. When he registers the song and puts my number in, I go into my account and the song is already in my account. the percentages that I get. And what happens now, they've changed it. One song equals 100%. It's 50% music and 50% lyrics. So it says music is considered composition and lyrics are considered authorship. So that means that if you wrote a song, you guys collabed, and you did the music and you wrote lyrics, so you kind of break down the percentages there, but you put all of that stuff in on those sites. Okay, so we have that piece of how we take care of that ownership in our business. Now,
so Derek, give me 1 second. So tell me if I'm right about this. I've almost always thought about, I've always, when I'm thinking about publishing, I think about publishing. Have you guys ever seen like a mob movie, right? And the mob boss is like, hey, go break that guy's legs if he doesn't pay me, right? Like if you're a musician and you don't have if you're not with BMI or ASCAP, essentially like you're just a guy in a house making music. You don't have anybody out there going out after your money for you, right? Like, so if is that, am I right? Like essentially like those people, ASCAP and BMI are like, they're your people essentially enforcing your copyright by getting you paid for the work that gets played. Am I off on that?
No, right. Exactly. That's exactly right. And the piece that a lot of people, and this is why I always call it boring, because as musicians, we just want to make music. We want to be in the studio. But you ever wondered why in 2021, you still have artists complaining about getting ripped off? And I mean, it's the same stories in 2021 that people were saying in 1950. And you would think, well, how can somebody sign a bad deal today? How can you get ripped off? It's because the money is in the behind the scenes. The money is in the knowledge. The money is knowing copyright law and publishing. Like even with record deals, the whole deal about record deal is nothing but a loan. Because if I'm going to sign you to my label, that just means that I have the money and I'm going to take $3 million and invest it in you. And there's a possibility that your record or your career might not work. And I have to eat that 3 million. But if I make you a star, I'm going to get my 3 million back first, plus 20 or 30% off the top. And then from that point, we can begin to split whatever. But, and a lot of people say, well, man, record companies, but that's why you start as an artist, you invest in, in building clout. And what clout is now is your followers, how many likes you have, and that's why I say, well, you guys look at yourself as a business. And it's really cool now with the way the internet is set up, because it's really an influencer's game now. And I hate to say this because, and back to the original point about you have to define what making it is for yourself, because making it in terms of having followers, it has very little to do with your music. And you could get 2 million streams and still not make enough money to pay your rent. So the idea is that, okay, well, how do I make money in this career? Now, what you have to decide, each of you have to decide, not only am I good at music, but you have to say, what else do I do that people will be willing to pay for? If I make dope beats, will people pay me to make? So me making songs, so Des, if you say, oh, I make dope beats, putting the record out is not just to stroke your ego and say, yo, buy my song. You putting the record out is basically you marketing your brand. So somebody say, man, that's a dope song. You can say, hey, that's Des Productions. The same way we did that, I can do that for you. $1,500 a track, $3,000 a track. So as you start to, when you're putting your music out there, your music is really a business card that you invite people in. So you have to look at other ways to create what kind of income streams, because the only way to really get rich or wealthy from making music is if you have a lot of resources to put into it in terms of the marketing. And that's why I say, like, let's not disillusion ourselves, because you're like, oh, I put the song out and it's dope, but nobody's liking it. I'm not getting, it's like, it's not that you're not the dopest, you are. But in order to get 1 million likes, at least 5 million people need to see or hear your music, right? Then how much does it cost to get 5 million people to see, hear, pay attention to, engage with, interact with? So my thing is to back away from that kind of pressure and say, okay, you know, this is where I am. I make dope music, but what else do I like? If you sing, if you do great vocals, great background, everything you do, you have to look at as a service that you can sell to someone else. And just putting the music out, like you just, you know, put music out. You want to be consistent because, you know, people have attention deficit disorder now. It's not like you can just put one album out every year and think that's going to be it. Now it's like, it's better to put out a single every month or every other month, maybe drop 5 singles, then drop the album. Maybe wait a couple of 2-3 months, and then you got to start that whole process over again. But what happens, and the thing about music is, and I keep looking at this, don't put pressure on yourself to think, oh man, I got to do, when you're putting this music out, you're basically testing the waters. So if you are, it's generational curses. If you are 3 albums deep, you got 30 songs on Spotify, Tidal, or whatever, and let's say you put out, and you notice the 15th song you put out, man, that joint got 3 million views. 3 million streams or whatever. Now you can say, it's worth maybe investing a little bit more in that joint because the people just interacted with it. And you don't have to do, okay, let me take 500 and put into this, or maybe 1,500 in this. And as those numbers grow, whether it's Empire or, you know, a larger distributor or somebody, you can use those numbers to kind of say, well, look, the people are already engaging. Or if somebody picks up your song and does a TikTok and it goes viral, and that song, like, example, everybody hip to Her. Remember the single she had with Daniel Caesar? You know, when that record like hit the charts, that record was 3 years old. It lived on the internet for like 3.5 years. Daniel Caesar was just traveling around the country playing every spot he could play to kind of build his fan base. And I remember when I heard the record, I was like, that record is old. But it was new because it was, by the time they knew they had a record, they put a push behind it and it was brand new to everybody else. And that's the way we have to operate. You put your music out, you just move a little bit at a time. But the first thing you have to do is say, well, okay, who am I? What makes me special? And we all have something that makes us special. And you have to figure out what that is. Not just, and the thing is that it's not about, you know, Des can be dope, Ivan can be dope, Roy can be dope, Sophia can be dope. We can be dope individually. We can be even doper together. And you figure out, okay, look, this is what I do. So say Sophia may be like, you know, I can lace these vocals. And Des may be like, I can lace these beats. Perfect example of that, Timbaland and Missy. You know, Timbaland, you know, with the beats, and that was his lane, still his lane. Missy wrote the hooks, wrote the lyrics. And that's the way we have to look at this thing, because you really get yourself, you can push yourself in a corner thinking, well, man, I got to compete, because you cannot compete with Drake without Drake's machine. And you have to go back and look at, you know, Drake started out as a mixtape guy, you know, and even with Drake became, you know, he had TV, the house had the TV thing with the TV show. So even Drake just kind of proves the point we're talking about. Before Drake became the Drake we knew, he had other income streams. And that's another thing to look at. You're looking at TV, you look at, reality TV or YouTube TV shows. Like every one of these, all of these mediums need music to exist. TV commercials. You guys hip to David Banner? Well, David Banner is from the same place. I'm from Jackson, Mississippi. He and I actually went to the same high school. And the thing that David Banner did maybe 6 years ago, you guys hip to the God Box? Des, you know what the God Box is?
I don't. I see it's an album, but I don't. I think I've heard of
All right.
a couple songs.
Let me tell you why I use this as an example. Everybody know David Banner produced, Rubber Band Man, T.I., Snoop Dogg, Chris Brown, list goes on. He wrote the theme song for Gatorade theme song for the World Cup. He's written for Mercedes-Benz, a bunch of movies, the whole thing. He's acted. But what he did, he went independent and he started doing these talks. So he was going around speaking about, his activism and stuff. So he did this record called The God Box. And what he realized was that people no longer want to just buy music. They want to buy culture. They want to buy personality. They want to buy an experience. So he's always talking about, his Black activism and his struggle. So he put together the God Box, and in the God Box, he put like three of his favorite books that made him who he was. He created a flag, his own logo. Then you got a Before the God Box mixtape that was like maybe 3 CDs, but it was all of this stuff in this very well designed box. And it's all advertising him, his content, his public speaking. He charged $250 a pop for those boxes and made over $2 million directly from his website in a year. Not to mention, he was out doing public speaking engagements, getting paid goo gobs of money. And at those engagements, he was selling mugs, T-shirts, all branding. This was branding before the God Box came. And I was like, this is genius. And all the record companies were like, David Banner creates this marketing coup in the music industry. And he was like, when he was signed to a major label over a decade ago, he's like, oh, I made the suggestion to the major label and they didn't think it would work. So what I say to each of us is we could do the same thing. The same way Banner figured out the things that made him special and he put all those things in a particular box. We just figure out, well, what is it that makes me special? What do I have to offer to the public? Because everybody thinks they have the dopest song. Everybody thinks, yeah. But what else is it? After people play that record, it's like, because let's be honest. And I hate to say it this way, but we're here to tell the truth, right? Right?
Right.
Nobody cares about you and your music. Most people care about is themselves. And if they say, man, Sophia got a dope record, how can I get that? That's the next thing. Well, how can I? And you feed into that. Great. I want you to like my record, and that's also how you pull people in. It's like, I have this thing. I want you to like what I have, but I can help you, hey, 2 G's, 2 stacks, and we can hook you up. We can do your beats. And you guys see all these guys online selling beats and this kind of thing. My son also does music and I'm helping him now. He arranges vocals and does that. I was like, man, I'm telling you, this is where your money is, because we need resources to invest, because you will not have success at any level. Success is based on advertising and marketing. That has not changed since the beginning of time, or commercial capitalism as we know it, and it will not change ever, because it's all about selling a thing, who you're selling it to, how you're going to get it to them, and those things cost money. Even I found out a few weeks ago, when you look at Instagram and all those people, they got 1 million followers and this and that. a lot of that is based on advertising. I did a run with an ad company. I was like, let me just try this thing out. I paid these people $80 to promote one post I did. They operated 50 different pages, and those 50 pages had over 1 million followers per page. And I had one post. Normally, if I get 200 likes on something, I'm cool. That one post got over 30,000 likes in 7 hours. And I was like, oh, this is how they do that. Like, we're sitting around thinking that we can compete when you have 300 or Empire or Universal literally spending thousands of dollars a week on making sure that their artists get 100,000 views or 100,000 likes, other than unless you're doing like Country Wayne or Desi or these people that are creating new content every single day. Does that make any sense to you guys? So now, taking all of that from where we are any of you guys influencers? Any of you guys post, like, you got YouTube shows, or you guys go live a lot? Any of that kind of stuff? Well, you need to incorporate that in what you do. To be a successful musician, artist, brand person, personality now, you have to have a strong and consistent social media presence, whatever it is. And you have to understand, when we talk about branding, when you're posting on social media, it goes back to first thing you have to figure out. Who am I? What do I want to do? And how do I want people to engage with me? So once you figure that out, every single post you make or every single thing you do on social media has to fall in line with that. So if you want people to get into you as a singer-songwriter, just putting a song out is not going to do it. But you guys, everybody hip to Tori Kelly? Now, Tori Kelly was this chick. Now, she's a big star now, but maybe, I don't know what, Sophia, was it 4 years ago? Was it maybe 4 or 5 years ago? But Tori Kelly, she's a singer-songwriter, amazing guitarist, singer. Every Tuesday, she just went live, and she would have like Tuesdays with Tori, and she would just sing her favorite cover every Tuesday. And she would do these amazing things. But what happened, she was so consistent, she was building this content, and people started to engage with her. Her numbers went up, and she ended up, there was a bidding war that ensued because they were like, yo, this chick is really dope. And they really got to watch the audience. They're like, look at her numbers. Like, she went from this to this. So the people that are like wanting to engage, they don't have to guess about it. They can say, well, look, Ivan has a personality. He has a following already. Because you do realize, my son was telling me, in Hollywood now, when you go to an acting audition, the first question they ask you before you even audition is? Who can guess?
Who are you? Tell us about yourself.
Even before that, they say, how many followers do you have? I thought it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, but it's true. My son auditions all the time, and he has friends that are, in these movies, and they were like, no. So if I come in and I have 2 million followers and I can't act, but this great person comes in, has a great audition, they are very talented, but they don't have any followers, I will get the role based on my followers. Why?
Because you already have an audience built.
Yep. And you can reach more people and sell things as well.
Yes, that's it. So the movie company is like, well, this guy's already got 2 million people that we don't actually have to pay to reach, because just putting him in it, we absorb his 2 million followers, and we can now have him just post about the movie that he's going to be in, and we don't have to pay to reach his 2 million people. So now they look at followers and internet social media presence as clout, as tangible, almost like currency. So now I'm not saying that, because this is where the fine line comes in, because I talk to a lot of musicians say, well, man, I'm an artist. Music is what I do. I'm not an influencer. And I was like, yeah, I get it. But you have to have a social media presence, even if you're building a fan base. And the thing you'll find, have you guys found that, say, if you post your song, you might get a few likes, but if you just post yourself sitting there talking or doing something stupid, you get way more likes? You have that experience? Well,
Absolutely.
now, so what you do is you take that and say, because what it is that people just want to engage with you. They want to know more about who you are. So what you do is you figure out, even if you're just in the studio, all right, I'm making this beat today. I'm gonna let y'all peek and see what I'm doing today. You might just give them a minute, or I'm writing this song, I'm doing whatever, or whatever, because people just like to feel like, oh man, I get to see what Dez is, I get to see what Dez does, like how he cooks up this dope, like, and that's the business that we're in. Because again, I hate to use this word, but we're branding. You have to see yourself as a brand or a business, and music is only one part of who you are and what you do. Also, as you're looking at marketing the other pieces, when people are like, oh man, I want to see what Sophia is really doing, or how she cuts those vocals, or how she laces these rhymes or whatever, they will tune in for that every time. And you go, you guys could go live with each other, even if it's going live and talking about whatever, this music industry, man. And the thing I would say is you always want to keep the energy up. You always want to be engaging. You always want to be positive to keep good vibrations, because I'm going to criticize this person and his beats are whack, like me, because he's whack. Well, you don't want to necessarily go that route, because you don't know, that whack guy might have 10 million followers, and you might have a chance to collab with him or something. So that's the thing. So if you do not have a strong social media presence, you have to find a way to build that. And it should become a part of your regular daily thing. And not from a point of like, my record's coming out next month, blah, 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 blah. The thing about it, don't really talk about it until you've already done it. Like when you're talking about it, it's like, I'm talking about it because the record's already finished, or the record may already be out. Because I have people say, man, my release date. I'm like, your release date doesn't matter to anybody but you. Like, all you have to do, once you know that it's live on all social media or what have you, on all distributors, you can say, all right, it's already at Spotify, Tidal, or whatever. I'm going to say the record comes out next week. And then I can start talking or promoting or whatever from there. Oh, quick question. Have you guys put out any music already?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Which,
almost.
what distributors you guys use?
I use United Masters.
DistroKid.
DistroKid, United Masters. Okay.
With distribute, you mean like the BMI and stuff like that, right? Or do you mean the social media platform?
Well, the distributor is the company you use, like DistroKid or TuneCore or CD Baby or United Masters, that actually puts your music into the to the space. It's kind of what used to be like, say, record stores, when they used to service record stores. Like I've used CD Baby for 20 plus years, and as my distributor, I put my music in with them. And you guys know what metadata is?
Yeah.
Who said yeah? Breezy?
Yeah.
What's metadata? Tell everybody what it is.
It's a set of data that describes and gives information, isn't that?
Yeah. Metadata is like everything. You notice when your track comes up, your name is on it. And I had this problem. Metadata is so particular. My name is Demar. I spell it D''MAR. One time I spelled it capital D, capital M, then small a, small r. The next record, I had all caps. CD Baby informed me later that that's two different types of metadata. So the metadata, then when you enter like all of the time of the song, the writer, like all the information about the song is metadata. And when you deal with a distributor, whether it's CD Baby, TuneCore, DistroKid, you have to put all of this information in, and that's how they form your metadata. The ISRC code, which is the identification, the way they track your record online, that's how you get paid too. So if your song is being used, like Sound Exchange uses the ISRC codes. So if a Japanese TV show is using your song, but they never got clearance, but every time it's played, that ISRC code pings, and Sound Exchange is going to say, okay, well, you owe Ivan this much money for using his song. So, but that's all a part of the metadata. And the reason
we can have in terms of, I know that I wanted to leave a little bit of space too for some question and answer. Metadata is something that, I mean, I would love to get, I mean, a bunch of these little topics, right? They seem little, right? We throw them out there, but like, but they are big in terms of their impact, right? So just as a little bit of a point of review, like the things I've heard you say so far is really like, take yourself seriously as a business, and dedicate your time to thinking through what business do I want to be in, and what businesses, what value do I have? And I mean, I know the people on this call, we've got influencers, we got people who are rappers, but also beat makers. We got people who on here who have their own clothing lines, their own, so there's a bunch of different value that you all have. I heard you talk really critically at the beginning about copywriting your work so that you can prove this is your intellectual property, and then you can sell that. Metadata is part of that, right? That's how you distinguish whose beat is this, right? It's by including your metadata in there through a distributor like a DistroKid. So I want to, I know that these are all big topics. I want to make sure some of the people on this call get a chance to ask you some questions if they have questions. I had this planned from 4:30 to 5:30. Dimar, if we're going to do a question and answer, that's obviously going to push us a little bit past that point. Do you have the time to spend a few more minutes? Okay. I'm good. All right. Well, is there any, before we go into kind of a question and answer, is there any, I did a kind of just a basic summary right now where we've been in the world a little bit. Is there any kind of, if you were going to summarize and kind of put a fine point on that, do you have any kind of I'll give you the thing, the table, I'll give you it back, the mic back, before we holler at the people.
Yeah, I will say, and I say, forgive me guys if I'm covering, because this business is so detailed and there's so much information. And I will say that I'm at your guys' disposal at any point. I'll gladly come back and chat and talk and do whatever at any time. I will say before I move to question and answer is this: understand that we as creatives at this point in our careers, we are perpetually in the marketing and advertising business. So whatever we create, whatever we do, we need to have knowledge of analytics, of the algorithms, basic marketing, like profit and loss, like, supply and demand. It's marketing. It's advertising. We have to understand those things. Even if we're working with somebody else to do those things for us, it's better if we have a general understanding so that we don't get ripped off, but having an understanding of the kind of work we need to do to really base and build our careers.
Awesome. I'm looking through the chat right now. I have one question, which is, I think there's a little bit of confusion about the difference between a distributor and a performance rights organization. So that like kind of is DistroKid what we're talking about when we're talking about ASCAP and BMI, or how are those two things different?
Okay. The distributor, okay, everybody's familiar with Spotify, Tidal, Amazon, so the distributor gets your music to all of these digital platforms. That's what the distributor does. Now, I know that CD Baby, and I'm not sure about DistroKid, you guys can tell me, CD Baby now offers a package that you can pay a bit more and they will do your ASCAP, BMI filing, what have you. I don't ever participate in that piece, but the distributor just puts it out there. Now, ASCAP and BMI is separate from that piece. Actually, before you even get to the distributor, you should already have your music registered with your publishing company. So you copyright it, and ASCAP and BMI are the publisher. That's where your money is going to come from. The distributor puts it into the marketplace. And as you get streams or downloads on Apple Music or iTunes or what have you, it is the publisher that keeps track of your money. So if you get a licensing deal or your music is in a movie or something, all of that deals with ASCAP or BMI, not CD Baby or DistroKid. And it's just real basic, like the distributor, like to distribute, if I pass something out or give you something or play something, that's what the distributor does. It takes your music and places it into the marketplace. And once it's in the marketplace, ASCAP, BMI are the publishing or the kind of licensing organizations that look at all the places your music is distributed to make sure you get paid.
And they literally have people who go to clubs and listen and mark down what's getting spun, and then people get paid the royalties off of that. So that's helpful clarification, Dimar. I wanted to queue up Gaia, who's got a question, and then Sophia, you can be next.
Hi. So,
Hi.
I came in midway through, but I really appreciate what knowledge I've gotten to hear from you so far. I just wanted to ask 5 tips or just like key things that you do to stay grounded as an artist.
Wow, that's a great question. Well, the main thing is to just do the work every day. And like my experience, I've worked for a lot of really famous people. And when I talk about gifts, my gift is always being able to make whatever I'm a part of better. And I understand that what keeps me grounded is that, you know what? It's all about being in service to someone else. When you go in to make something else better, it always comes back to you. You know, everybody I've ever worked with or I've done something for, and if I need something, hey, even when I don't know I need something, it just comes back to me. And that's one of the things that really keeps me humble and keeps me grounded. Is like, yo, man, or I see people with bad attitudes. And at the end of the day, people just really want to work with nice people. They want to work with people that they can get along with. And I mean, I get a lot of work, and I can't say I've ever gotten anything because I was the best. There was always somebody better. But I always practiced professionalism, being prepared, being over-prepared, being on time, and just, being a cool hang, being, somebody would hire me because it's like, I'll hire that guy because I know I can depend on him. He won't be a headache, even though he's not as good as that other guy, but that dude's late. He's got an ego. I have to pamper him or whatever. So I guess those are the kinds of things that just kind of keep me grounded, is that I'm constantly reminded that humility gets you a lot further than arrogance, or like confidence. You have to be confident in what you do, but it's like, it's about showing up and figuring out what I can do in the space to make everybody else win.
That's great takeaways. Thank you. Sophia, you had a question?
Yeah, hi everyone, and thank you so much, Derek, for spending time and taking time out of your day
Oh,
to
no
really
problem.
come and teach us youth more about the industry. A little background, like my family is more into the behind the scenes of the music industry. So a question for me would be like, how do we get on stage? So I know everything behind the scenes, it's the on stage factor. So where were you and how did you feel when you first started songwriting?
When I first started songwriting, that was a bit of an organic thing for me. I just kind of started figuring it out, and it was one of those things where I didn't think I was good at it because the people I work with told me I sucked. So I was like, oh, okay. I never let anybody hear my stuff. And when I finally did, and somebody was like, oh, it's good, I want to record that song. I was like, oh, really? So I was maybe like 19 or 20 years old, but I didn't start maybe writing records for myself as an artist. I've working for Little Richard. I'd worked for him for like 7 or 8 years, and he's an icon or whatever. And I let him hear some of my stuff, and he was like, "Man, you should record your own records." And I was like, "Well, if Little Richard said I should do it," and I did it. So, and I just started from there. And one of my favorite songwriters is Babyface, and Babyface said something like, "It's kind of like when Gaia was talking about being humble, like." I noticed with Babyface, all these hits this dude had, but every time I see him in an interview, he's just so regular. And he was like, hey man, songwriting is just hard work. He's like, everything you write's a hit. And he's like, nah, the ratio is 10-1. He's like, for every 10 songs I write, I have one good one. And that let me know. I was like, wow. And they were like, but you've had hundreds of hits. He's like, yeah, think about how many I had to write to get those. So for a period for myself, I'm a huge Prince fan as well. And years ago, I heard Prince say, yo, you should write a song a day. And probably, no lie, for about a decade, marking holidays and certain things, I literally wrote a song a day. My day job, when I wasn't touring or whatever, I got up in the morning and I wrote a song. And the thing is, it's like flexing. It's like working out. The more you flex a muscle, and everything's not going to be good, but I got good at finishing stuff. Mm-hmm. Like I'd start, okay. Sometimes the universe will speak, it will come, and then there'd be days I have to work, but I would work every day, and I may say, oh, I got the hook. Usually what I do even now, I'm just going for the hook. Like, okay, if the story doesn't really come to me, at least let me get the hook. If I got the hook, then I can roll with the hook and then I can develop the story from there. But it's a process. And I just got to the point where it's like I worked and worked and worked and worked. And after a while, it just kind of became second nature. And even when I work in studios with people, it kind of helped with my professionalism because it's like, oh, I understand this process of going from point A to point B because I'm so used to starting and finishing something. Hope that helped.
That's awesome. Thanks again. Let's see. B, Veronica, you got a question?
Yeah, I also wanted to say thank you for.
B, can you speak up a little bit? I don't know what's going on, but I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Lightweight.
I have it all the way up. That's why I don't understand.
You got to sing it for us. I think that's it.
All right, can you hear me now?
Go ahead.
Better. Go for it.
Okay. No, I just wanted to say thank you for like dropping all these gems today. Like even, telling us about copyright and all of that.
You guys are welcome.
Yeah, that was super helpful. So like, for myself, I do call myself a singer-songwriter, but I'm very passionate about songwriting. Um, I don't know. I just feel like it takes you to a whole different place. You could be whoever you want when you're songwriting. And I guess my question would be like, when you first started off, like, what would you tell like somebody like me who like wants to sell their music, but doesn't like, how do you talk percentages and when it comes to business like that, when you don't have like a manager or like, how do you put a price on your work? Like, if you know, because like I've had people who have said like people who are influencers and have a big following that they want me to write for them, but I'm always like, I always say no, or I'll say like, oh, maybe we can collab or something, because I know business can get weird, you know? And it's like,
Mhm.
I don't want to write somebody a good song and I don't get no money off of it, you know? Like, so I
Well,
always think about that. Like, if people with 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 a lot of followers, like they must see something in me that I could add to whatever that they're trying to do. So what, how do I put that on, like, how do I just say like, am I selling myself short if I say $50 for a song, or $100 for a song, or like,
well, what you do is that if they're paying you, they're not paying you for your song. You copyright your song, and the song belongs to you. So what they pay you for is your time in that process. Because when you fill out the copyright forms, there's a place there called work for hire. And usually, like if you work in a session and you contribute to a thing and they say, well, this is a work for hire, that means that if they paid you $500 for that, it was a work for hire. That's all you'll ever make from that. But you as a songwriter, you should take those opportunities to write for these influencers, because it's going to be, they're not going to be able to pay you what you're worth or whatever, because you're priceless. There is no worth on that song. That song you write could very well become a hit song and make hundreds of millions of dollars. There's no way they can quantify or pay you that. Now, what they pay you, if you say, well, look, I'll write it, but the overhead for me doing this is studio time is going to be $250, or you don't even have to tell what you look. In order for this to happen, I got to go to the studio, and you could say, yo, I need to put 150 in my pocket. So just pad that and say, in order for me to do this, but let them know this doesn't buy the intellectual property. This is just you paying for my services and getting this done. But if I write, you write the song, and it doesn't have to, when you write it, you copyright it yourself. Now, and if you're working with someone and you guys are collabing, hey, do the split sheets. Hey, right now, you contributed this, I did such and such. And don't ever be ashamed of handling your business. And I know that's a hard thing. Like you'd be like, yeah. Hey, can we talk about these splits? And then, people are, oh man, why you got to do like that? I thought we were cool. We are cool, but I can't eat with us being cool. Like being cool won't pay my bills. So let's just handle this business. And you have to do that. And you don't say, they'll say, I'll do the splits. No. Let's do them now together. And there are, I'll find, and I'll send it to Joel. This is the artist, Tamar. She actually has this site. I think it's splits.com. I'll find it and send it to Joel, and he can share the correct link with you guys. But there's a site that she actually deals with that exact thing, where you can kind of print out the sheet and kind of write out what people's things are. But no, you should take those opportunities to write those songs, because what happens is, even if you write a song for an influencer and it doesn't make you any money right away, but it's your intellectual property ownership and you publish it, what happens is that's just on your resume. And you'll be like, yo, who wrote that song, man?
I want the credits.
Yeah, you want the credit. Then what happens, you may say, because these influencers, a lot of them have a lot of money, and you might say, you know what? All right, give me 10K, and I'll write this song for you. And what that 10K does is it gives you an exclusive license for the use for this song for X amount of period. So for a year, this is your joint. And then after that year, I can do whatever, or we can talk about renewing. But you're in the driver's seat. So the copyright, but that's why I was saying, like, we have to get used to looking at ourselves as businesses. So when you create that, and you don't necessarily have to have a manager or someone to speak for you or whatever. At some point you will, when it gets bigger than you. But hey, just do your business. Like, let's write the song. Here's the splits. And what you should do, even if you're just writing lyrics, as soon as you do it, if you have like 10 songs, go ahead and copyright them. You can just copyright your lyrics.
That's really good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being comfortable with people pushing back a little and just like holding your ground from my own experience. Like I have, I'm an older musician who makes, is a producer, and a lot of people will be, hey, let's make this beat. And basically I'll come back with, that's fine, but I'll own the beat. Like there's no, like you can't really pay me, because young beat makers are like, I'll make a beat for $50, but for me, like, what's $50? I need to eat, and I put, how many thousands of hours have I put into music to get me to this point? So like, a young musician can never pay me for that, right? So me owning the rights, and I definitely have people who feel like you're being phony, like, oh, it's like that, and it's like, actually, this is how it works. So you go do some research. If you find other people who you mess with who aren't operating like this, I'll be surprised. Read the fine print, because they probably holding on to their rights too. Because that's just how it works. And people have been like, I had somebody come at me a couple months ago, real foul, like real, like, oh, it's like that. And I was like, we don't have to work together. That's fine. This is my standard, and it's actually industry standard, so it's like not that big of a deal. I don't know why this is freaking you out, but go do some research, and when you if you find somebody, and then that person came back like 2 days later, you right and anyway, I think people respect that, right? People actually do kind of respect when you have boundaries and you hold them, and you just know your own value and your own worth. That says something about you as an artist. Sophia's got another question, and then I want to make sure, if you got one bubbling up, we got about 8. Well, let's do about 5 more minutes, so maybe 2 more questions. So if there's somebody else who has a burning one, we'll go from there. Sophia, you got the floor.
So my other question would be, as a poet, my writing is mostly in poetry and creative writing. How can I switch my poetry into songwriting?
Now, what you should do is collaborate with another one of your partners that's a musician, a piano player, guitarist, that can help you. Yeah, Gaia, she's waiting. She could, that can help you bring melody to those, to those words. Or if you like, you can, if you hum an idea, but if you're just like, okay, I just got these words, whatever. Yeah, just find one of your friends that's a pianist or guitarist or just whatever that plays an instrument that can, or even a friend of yours that sings, might be able to look at it and, just start singing something with those words. But that's how I would do. Let's kind of find a musical partner in that way.
Yeah, shameless plug for Monday's songwriting group too. At 3:30. slide through the Zoom and hang out with us, and and write some good songs, and also take some time and write some bad ones, right? Because that's kind of how we roll. Is just write them and they get better. Let's go to, we got DJ Khaled. You got another question, right?
Thank you. Yes, I got another one. I feel like every artist at a certain point within their journey feels very discouraged from continuing on. And I just wonder how you combat that.
Well, for me, you have to always remember why you do it. And the thing that initially motivated you and inspired you was not, I don't know, I can't speak for anybody, but the thing on this, it wasn't money. It wasn't, I didn't, before I even knew you could make money doing music, I was just like, oh, I just like to play drums. Like even now, like I do a lot of stuff, but when I sit behind a drum kit, like I still get that fire I had at 5 years old. It's just like, this is the coolest thing in the world. So it's that thing that you connect with. And there are those times like when life hits you and it's like, man, I got to pay the rent. I got to do this. And oh, maybe I should do it. He's like, okay, you have to kind of talk yourself down and say, okay, I love doing this. And then you start looking at the reality. Okay, well, all right, whether it's songwriting or this thing, but that's where the diversification thing, like I got into education because I love music and I was like, I just want to do this for a living. And I had a mentor that was like, well, you do realize that everything is seasonal. Everybody has different seasons. So you may be a songwriter, but nobody's going to write hit songs all the time. So you might have a season that you have hits, but then the next season may be you co-writing for other people or teaching other people songwriting. So I was like, oh, well, as long as I can do what I love to do, whether it's talking to people like you guys or playing a gig or recording a record or writing a song or sitting on a panel or being on the board of West Coast Songwriters, it's like, it's all a part of my life and it's inspiring. So yeah, I'd just say it's when those things, and we all get those doubts. We all get those things and you have to just have to back up and remember why you do it. And then once you do that, just like, okay, I love this. And then you just kind of keep from, moving yourself through and, you'll get that next inspiration. You'll have that next great performance and that bug will hit you like, this is why we do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Well, I want to be conscious of our time and really give you major props. Thank you so much for taking time, Dimar, out of your work schedule to come drop some gems.
Thank you.
I know I speak for a bunch of people. If folks can put their love in the chat, that's how we usually roll. So take a second, give some love. I also want to shout out Poppy from West Coast Songwriters who put this all together, Ian for just approaching Sunset Youth Services with the desire to partner and to bring more of these opportunities. So definitely shouts to Poppy and West Coast Songwriters, really amazing organization. We got some thank you poppies coming in.
Yeah, thank you all for helping put this together. It's been really, I didn't plan to stay on. Dimar is always so amazing. And I was like, oh, he doesn't need me there. But I was so interested in everything that was going on here. I just wanted to hang out. So I hope it didn't bother anyone that I was just kind of here in the background. But feel free, anyone who's interested more about West Coast Songwriters, to reach out to either me or Dimar. It's wonderful to see youth inspired in the music world. So thank you all.
Where can we find you to reach out to you?
So my email is Poppy, like my name there, at westcoastsongwriters.org. So I can put it here, actually. That's easier, right? Let me see here.
That's great. So we have, I'm just going to read through some of the comments. Great job. Thank you so much again. Thanks, Poppy. Shout out to everybody on this Zoom. Thank you so much. Let's see. So grateful for you. Thank you. Where can we find you? Thank you. We're sad we couldn't be there at the Songwriters conference this year. So grateful to hear from a man of color about his experiences and wisdom during our current political environment. This was so insightful and knowledgeable. Thank you so much for your presence / contributions. And then for everybody who's on here, if you wanted those contacts, they are in the chat. So make sure you copy and paste those into your notes. And we're going to be doing more of these partnerships with West Coast songwriters. So we will definitely advertise them. Thank you all for being here, and have an awesome weekend.
Oh, Joe.
Yep.
If I may,
You
what?
may.
And I say real quick for everybody here, because everybody's been thanking me the whole time. You're welcome, but thank you guys for being the creators you are. And I'm only here because you guys are worthy of me being here. And I want you guys to keep that in mind with all the stuff that's going on, and, you know, sometimes turn the news off and this kind of stuff, whatever. Understand that you are worthy. You are just know that you're great, you're beautiful, you're loved. And that's why I'm here. And anytime there's anything I can do to help or whatever, I'm here because somebody did it for me. People continue to do it for me. And it's my job to do it for you. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll be back, and keep an eye out on Instagram for more events. And Sunset Youth Services, we're getting ready to open back up, and so we'll be scheduling studio sessions coming soon. One more plug for this recording van. This thing we've been working on this year so that it's totally COVID safe. 2 different ventilation systems for the different sides. So
wow.
We ran our first recording session today in it, and so tap in. We're going to have ways for people to schedule studio time coming out in the next week or so. So we're really excited. Our whole work is loving being with you and loving seeing your creative spirits take flight, and we're in it with you. And this year has been crazy, but we're getting through it, and just know you're loved and valued. All right, y'all. We'll see you later.
Bye,
Good
everyone.
weekend, guys. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for the
Thank
opportunity
you.
again.
Bye,
Bye.
Bye. Be safe.
Bye.
See you. Thank y'all.
Yeah, thank you.